Hey guys, it's Patrick here. Today we are looking at perfect settings for multiplayer on Battlefield 5. Now, the thing is, I have been looking through the internet for some really good ideas on how to set up Battlefield 5 on my computer to play at 1440p, obviously widescreen as you can see at the highest frame rate possible. I've got a 100Hz monitor, so I want to get those frames really high because, well, you know, in multiplayer it's really the best thing to do, but also you want to balance out how it looks so the game doesn't look terrible, but also you want to remove some effects to be as well, have the competitive edge. So sometimes there is items that remove the grass. For example, in Battlefield 5 you can overlook the grass because if you remove the foliage you will see less. So let's start off with looking at what settings I have set up for Battlefield 5 to actually get the best frames in multiplayer, and then we'll jump in a game quickly just to give it a go. Now I've got OBS streaming in the back, so I hope it doesn't affect the frames too much, but first of all, just to be as clean as possible, apart from OBS, we're going to turn on the inbuilt frame counter. So you're just going to press the button next to your number 1 and type in perf overlay dot FPS 1. You'll see this Win32 result true, and right at the top right hand corner you'll see a number. Now in the menu it's actually about 60 to 70 because in the menu it's rendering the game engine, so you're having the actual game play in the background as your little moving images. So let's have a look at the settings. So click more, go into options. Now I don't want this video to be too long, so we'll go through this as quickly as possible and jump in and see what results we can get. So video, and through the basics is some pretty easy stuff. So first of all, brightness, I've set it to 60, just above 50, not too much. Some people have it at 80, but 60, even maybe 55 is actually quite good. You'll be able to see really good results in much darker areas of the map. Not that there's many dark maps, but it just gives you a little bit of a boost to see those enemies, especially in tunnels and so on. Field of view is 74. Now the thing is, this is a number that's not representative of many other games, but on the side you'll see horizontal FOV 90, and then the vehicle obviously is 90 also, so both 74, which works out pretty well. 90 is a standard. I was playing at 100 before, and I found 90 to be the perfect sweet spot. So ADS field of view is actually set to off, so it's not as a jarring effect when you actually right click into your scope. If you have it on, it actually zooms into the previous field of view, the old previous view, not 90. When you have it off, it's just a slight zoom and really makes it easier to target enemies. Motion blur is obviously 0. This is unacceptable. This is just a ridiculous way to try and hide low frame rates on consoles, really. I'm not even sure why this is on a PC or at all exists. ADS effects, so if you have a weapon, obviously you might have some blurriness on the side. I turn this off. It's pretty useless. It might be using some CPU, but we don't really know. Everything else, like here, chromatic abrasion, film grain, and vignette, I have no idea how to say that. That's all off. It's just effects. They will not affect your game, but lens distortion for effects will potentially affect your multiplayer experience. Alright, custom colors are off unless you have issues with colors with your eyes. Colorblind, you'll be probably using this. Other than that, remember to set your resolution to the max resolution with your highest frame rate possible. And now we're going to jump into advanced settings. So a couple things. First of all, DX12 is still got a lot of issues in Battlefield 5, so have that as off. High dynamic range is off unless you have a monitor with a 10-bit panel and that has high dynamic range. Probably not. It's going to cost you a little bit of performance, so technically I would just turn it off. Resolution scale is fine at 100, to be honest. Now I'm running a 1080 Ti. I've been trying to find videos on YouTube that have it specifically for 1080 Ti, and the 100 resolution thing, nobody above unless you're running less than 1060 or even 2060, you might probably want to keep this at 100. So 2070, 2080, 2080 Ti, 100 we find. Frame limiter at 200, no real need for it. You could set it to your monitor, but I can't get 100 exactly, so I'll just set it at 200. Future frame rendering. Now, this is one that bothers me a lot. This is something you're going to have to test out yourself. I cannot give you an answer on this one, so I'll set it as on, but I'll explain it this way. If you have it on, and like it says on the side, there will be a bit of input lag. However, the game will, well, performance is going to be a lot smoother. if you're taking it off, it feels like it's going live and you exist as a live entity in the game. I don't know how else to explain it, but I've been playing with it off, but I have found that I'm getting better kills with it on, even though there might be some input lag. Again, you can minimize it with a higher refresh rate, so having it on gives you a little bit more option. If you are going to go for much lower specs on here, when we discuss future frame rendering should be off. Vertical sync off, of course, unless you're running a 60 Hz, then you might want to have it on. And if you have a high refresh rate monitor, you'll have it off. And if you have something like G-Sync or FreeSync, have it off. UI scaling has nothing to do with it. GP memory restriction, you can turn that off if you've got more than 4 or 6, well, I would say 6 gigs of GDDR RAM on your card. So turn it as off. It doesn't really affect much, but it will give you a bit of headroom in case the game takes it a bit further. This is not necessary scaling. This is just a preference thing. So UI scale factor is up to you. All right. This might seem a little bit weird to some. So I've set everything to high because when you pop down to medium, the actual difference is very, very small in regards to frames, but the actual quality goes down a lot. So high, 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 and in post-process quality we're going to set to low. So that's the explosions, and what this really helps with is basically let's say there's a lot of things happening on screen and you want to keep those frame rates high because you're expecting a lot of enemies. Have that as low so you don't get a massive FPS lag when you actually have that mesh. Quality terrain is fine. Undergrowth quality, this is the one that I was talking about before. You need to set this to, well, low, because what this does is the grass and I guess other items that are a bit more foliage or natural will be as low as possible, meaning you'll be able to see those enemies in and around rocks, grass and trees, and it's just much easier to deal with. And to be honest, it's actually almost unfair if you have this at ultra. Anti-aliasing, post-processing, this one doesn't actually have a very high effect on your frame rates. Interestingly enough, I found to be about 2 to 3 sometimes. Ambient occlusions, we'll just leave it as off. It's pretty, look, it looks nice, but it's not really useful to a good multiplayer game. Alright, so once you've done all those, some people ask me what my gameplay stuff is set to. HUD motion off, you don't want the stuff to shake when you're playing, and that's pretty much it on this side. Nothing in advance that really needs attention unless you have some gameplay preferences. So my gameplay preference is that soldier auto leaning is off and auto peek is off. I will decide when to peek and don't automatically just pop out of a hiding spot. So let's jump into a quick multiplayer game and see what kind of performance we get. So play multiplayer. And what we're going to try and do is advanced search it and just find one with some free spaces. Now, the one thing I have to point out is, first of all, there is very little space in Australian servers. Oh, here we go, here's one, and I think as long as we click join quickly, we'll be able to. Perfect. Alright, 2 things we have to mention. Conquest has a lot of, well, people, first of all, and the maps are a lot bigger, so your performance hit will be the biggest here in a Conquest game. All the other modes are a little bit smaller. Domination is obviously the smallest of them all, with a 32 player base, 16 each side, and that'll provide you with the easiest gains in frames. It's also the quickest mode, so in Conquest you don't necessarily have to run around as much. Okay, so if you look to your right up there, it's about 120. I know you can't see it very well, and you might also notice that my voice has changed. Unfortunately, the mix of the game sound and recording through ABS was really atrocious, so I re-recorded this bit. So basically, at the first point in this map, walking around, I'm getting between 90 to 136 I saw a max of, and the game runs absolutely smooth. So the computer itself is got a 7700K, 32 gigs of RAM, and of course the 1080 Ti with 8 gigs of GDDR5 or whatever it is, 8 or 12, it doesn't really matter at this stage. The thing with the RAM, for example, is that this game uses about 10 gigs of RAM, so make sure you have at least a 16 gig I guess buffer, or rather at least 16 gigs of RAM in general. At this point it really wouldn't matter. With 8 gigs of RAM, you just have to tone down a lot of the effects in the game to actually get some good performance out of it. Your CPU doesn't necessarily have to be great to run this game. It is very much graphically bound. So at the end of the day, it's still more likely that you'll put more money into your graphics card. So finally, I suppose, thank you very much for watching. I hope you gave this settings a chance. There is a lot of videos out there. I did find myself trying to find a specific one for a 1080 Ti setup, and this setting obviously worked really well for me, and I'm hoping that somebody out there has a similar setup and it helps them. So guys, thank you very much for watching. Like, subscribe, let me know what you think. I don't usually do gaming videos on my channel. This is more of, I guess, a technical hardware thing, so I hope it has been helpful to some other people there who are in the same boat as me. I appreciate your time, guys, and I'll catch you another time. Bye.